is Dr. Betts here, coming up to you from Broward College North Campus. Starting a new podcast adventure called All In with Dr. Betts. I have my first guest, Tawny Tibbits, brand new faculty here at Broward North Campus, and I'm really happy to have her here. Tawny, welcome to the show.
Well, hey, happy to be here.
See, we're acting like actors now. We're talking as we don't normally talk. Isn't it fun?
Yes.
So Tawny, everyone who doesn't know her, she is the new geology faculty. We're happy to have her here. It took a long time to find her, and we're glad we found the diamond in the rough because, believe it or not, folks who don't know about finding people to work, it's tough to find good people, and we're really happy to have you here. So Tawny, where are you from?
I am from a very, very small town in southern Iowa. It's about 5,000 people. It's called Centerville.
Centerville, that's pretty cool.
We're in the center of our county. We're not in the center of anything else.
So like a one-horse town type thing?
We have cows.
Ooh.
They're mine. I think.
Do you have corn too?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So being a young person in a small town, like how many people would you say? 10,000? 15,000?
Oh, 5.
5,000, very small town.
And we're the county seat. We're the biggest town in the whole county.
So there's no McDonald's?
We had the McDonald's. It's in a gas station.
Oh, right.
And we have the Walmart.
In the same gas station?
No, it's across the street.
So how would someone in a situation like that get interested in science, let alone geology?
My family owns a rock quarry.
Oh, very nice.
Yes. So
cool.
On Sundays we would get to go out, and my dad would take us to one of the piles of rocks, and we would get to hunt for fossils.
No way. What did you find?
Brachiopods mostly. So they're similar to a seashell, but most seashells are bivalves, and so they are not bilaterally symmetrical. So if you tried to cut a seashell in half, you could not along the hinge, you couldn't do it and make two perfect halves. Bivalve or brachiopods, you can cut them in half, and you have two perfect halves.
I know what we need to do. We need to look this up.
Yeah, I could draw terrible drawings for you.
And there we go. Now we're live. What happened? I don't know. Hopefully we're still recording.
We'll find out.
Computer. So here you go.
Okay.
What were we talking about?
Brachiopods and bivalves.
Interesting.
So did I get it? Nope. Brachiopod versus a bivalve. Yeah, they check them by their symmetry. We could find some bivalves there as well, but mostly it was brachiopods. Let's be dangerous here. We'll go to Yale. That'll be great. The Peabody's fabulous. So this is a bivalve. You can't cut it in half and make it symmetrical. But a brachiopod, like this guy, you can cut it in half and make two perfect halves. So just seashells, basically.
So they're similar, they're just different.
Yeah, they're different types or different genera. Okay. So we found a bunch of those because Iowa actually, during the Devonian, was an inland sea.
What's the Devonian?
So it's an old time period. The Devonian was the age of the fish. So it is for about 420 million years ago. There were large, huge, giant armored fish about the size of this table with bony heads that would have stood about 3 feet from the floor.
For those of you who are just listening to the podcast, the table we're sitting at has got to be at least 10 feet long.
Oh yeah,
so these were huge fish.
Very big fish, and their teeth were part of their armored heads, so they could just chop off limbs, easy peasy.
Pull up a photograph of one, or a drawing of one.
The most famous one is Dunkleosteus. That's this guy, affectionately known as Dunky.
Oops.
Oh, where did he go?
Wikipedia.
Well, that's not a good source. Let's just go look up Dunky here. Dunky the fish. Oh, that's a donkey. I can't spell Dunkleosteus. Don't tell anybody. Dunkleosteus. There we go. Thank you, Google, for making sure I don't look like a total.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, yeah, that's guy. So these on his eyes, they had bones inside their eyeballs.
Okay.
They're called sclerotic ossicles. And so they would help some fish, and actually some diving birds still do have these today. Penguins have them, loons have them. They keep their eyes from popping when they dive for the birds.
Oh, okay.
And so they help give your eye some structure as you're moving quickly through water. So a lot of the predatorial fish will have these.
Wow.
So Dunky was pretty big, and you can see those teeth look pretty vicious.
Right. That's a pretty scary looking fish.
Yeah, we never found any of those in the quarry, but.
Well, you found the shells, and that's what kind of got you excited?
Yeah.
Do me a favor, just click on this. Let's make sure that got onto the...
This one?
Yeah, there. Okay, that looks great.
Great. So, that's Dunkleosteus. Everybody just calls him Dunky.
So, when you were a little kid, you were in there fishing around the quarry. Fishing around the quarry. Oh, sorry about that terrible pun. You were finding these seashells.
Yep, and we found a bunch of crinoids too, which
Whoa,
are
You're finding
found
all
a
this
bunch
stuff I've never
oh,
heard of.
yeah.
You should pull that up
So-
too. Let's find what that is.
Crinoids they're called sea lilies, but that's actually a misnomer because they are animals and they're still alive today. Crinoids, this is let's see if we can get to the images here. This is a live crinoid. Make sure that looks good. Yeah, that's a live crinoid, or a model of one. But what we usually find in the fossil record are mostly the columns, so the stem, they look like SpaghettiOs. So I always call them like, fossil SpaghettiOs. You can sometimes find the pinnacules, the little arms and the fibers up here, but they're harder to preserve because they tend to flow away because crinoids like to live in turbulent cold waters.
Okay.
They are filter feeders. So you have to have a lot of water moving through those feathers up on their arms to get the nutrients that they need. So there's actually a petition right now to try to make crinoid the state fossil of Iowa.
Wow.
Yeah. So cool.
So these
stuff.
would be like embedded in the rock or something?
They look like this.
Wow.
If you get a good one. Mostly you just get, like this is most commonly what you get. And they look like fancy SpaghettiOs.
How do you get those fossils from the one we just saw?
Those are the stems. So the stems are segmented. All of those little guys are stacked on stacked on stacked.
I got you.
Yeah.
So they're sloughing off of each other. Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's usually what you find are just these little bits of
So they
pieces.
kind of they just kind of fit into each other, stack. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you found those in your little girl. How old were you? Like in your teens, or were you?
Oh no, we started doing this when we were like 5.
Wow.
I mean, the quarry's closed on Sunday, so it's perfectly safe. So they just let us climb around on rocks, and we would. Dad would have the hammer, so if we found anything, we'd go, Dad, my sister and I. And he'd come over and chisel it out for us, and then we had boxes and boxes of them.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
yeah, if we got really, really lucky, we would find a trilobite.
Well, okay. What's a trilobite? Man, you're bringing in all the cool things today.
Yeah, trilobites are little, they basically are somewhere between a cockroach and I don't know. Oh, she found a trilobite. They're somewhere between a cockroach and an isopod.
These are pretty common, though, I think, right?
Yeah,
Because
they
those are
are-
all over the world, pretty much.
Yes. The most famous are the Moroccan trilobites because they're really, really pretty. You get great looks. So the fossils are really, really well put together from you get incredible preservation. Let's just do this. Moroccan. Tree people. Okay. Like this guy.
Oh, wow.
This one's really cool because it helps you look at the evolution of the eye. So this portion right here is actually the eyeball of the trilobite. So it has a compound eye. And these were one of the first, they came around in the Cambrian, which is 540 million years ago-ish. And so they are an early organism. And they survived through, they were gone before the dinosaurs. I can't remember exactly when the last genera went extinct, but they were around for a long time. And
That's incredible.
yeah, some of them lived in the muck at the bottom of the ocean. Some of them swam. Some of them did a little bit of both. Some of them burrowed. It was just, they are really, really cool organisms.
So how would something, normally when you see a fossil, especially an aquatic fossil, they're compressed and they're flattened down. This one's a three-dimensional.
He probably died in
Example.
a submarine landslide.
Wow.
A bunch of really soft, mucky stuff, and didn't squish him.
Right.
And so what you do with these is they're almost all preserved in limestone, which is a calcium carbonate. The chemical formula is CaCO3.
Wow. Okay.
So that's easily dissolved using a dilute acid. So what we do is we take these rocks, we put them in a bucket of hydrochloric acid, HCl. It dissolves away all the limestone, but leaves the silicious, so silica-rich skeletons behind.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So that is a trilobite. I'm fairly certain of one of the other photos you showed us. I'm fairly certain my university in Eastern Canada had a huge sample of one that was on the wall, and they said they found it in a area not far from.
Canada had a lot of inland seas throughout the history too.
Thank God for Canada people.
Oh yeah.
So now that we know that all these aquatic creatures were in Iowa.
So very, very Midwest, which is weird because I actually moved from Coralville to Coral Ridge down here. Only one of these places still has coral.
Right. But that basically proves, though, that part of the United States was underwater for a long time.
Yes.
Under salt water, though, right? Right.
Yep, we were a shallow tropical sea.
A tropical sea.
Before the advent of trees, though. So there was no life on land when these guys were around yet. At the beginning, during the Devonian.
No plants?
No trees. Most of the dry earth was actually going to be covered with like moss, lichen, algal mats.
So kind of like what you'd find if you went up to the Arctic.
Right. So there were no vascular land plants until later.
So a vascular land plant would be like a modern tree or a bush or
It started off with something similar to like liverwort.
Really?
So or
Incredible.
like horse fern.
Show us a liverwort and a horse fern. So for the people who've never seen that before, I've never seen that before. I mean, I'm sure I've seen it, I just didn't know what it was.
They're kind of mossy, but they do have a structure to them, so they can stand up. So one of the big transitions that had to happen before you could get onto land was you had to be able to hold your own weight.
Mm-hmm.
So liverwort was a big one at the beginning.
So they just developed a protein structure that would let them hold their weight? Or?
They developed the xylem and phloem, so that the crunchy structures. So that's the early land plants.
See, these are Google searches I would never do on my own. This is incredible.
I know, they're a little scary. So yeah, liverwort. This is what one of the earliest ones would have looked like for an artist's rendition, of course. But really cool stuff. Very simple plants. They couldn't get very tall because they didn't have very solid structures yet. So it wasn't until you reached the Carboniferous, which in North America we split into the Mississippian and the Pennsylvanian. This is the time at which most of the coal deposits on Earth were formed. So Carboniferous.
Wow,
made
yeah,
of carbon.
that makes sense. Wow, so most of the coal deposits were these plants. You're saying?
They were from when we got to the Devonian when we started to have trees.
Oh, okay.
So we had some really cool trees. They were.
So hold on, I don't mean to interrupt you. We transferred from one period where the plants were very, very small.
Yeah, and so these guys were huge. They were instrumental in forming soil.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So once we got soil, the trees could get bigger.
So these were probably more like rock clingers, where they cling onto a rock. And, okay, I got you.
So we started going from these little organisms. Oh, I'm a little off here. Sorry. These little organisms to getting into big, big trees. So we moved into scale forests. These trees were they looked scaly. They were called lepidodendrons. All of the names are great.
You got to bring that up. You can't just assume that I know what these are. I cannot believe I'm having a Monday morning conversation about plants and really digging it.
They're great. Lepidodendrons are super cool trees. This is what their bark actually looked like. It was very, very scaly. They basically had armor. So a lot of early plants had to evolve to keep organisms from eating them. So that's why in the jungles and tropical forests you get really spiny plants, is because everything wants to eat them. So this is what the trees looked like. This would be a lepidodendron. This is a good picture of it here, where you can see they're just like one really tall trunk and basically kind of like a palm tree.
Right.
And they didn't have true leaves like a palm tree. They more had like, kind of closer to a fern type top. But the sides were all scales. So sometimes in certain places in Iowa you can get these deposits.
Really?
Yeah, they're a little more rare though.
And you find the imprint of the bark like in a mud deposit that hardened and became a stone?
Yep.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So when you were small, you were finding plants like this, or you were just finding the
I found some petrified wood. I think once or twice my dad found the lepidodendrons when I was around, but he always had the better eye.
Right. Well,
Yeah. I mean, little
more
children easily
experience.
distracted.
Of course,
Yeah.
That's incredible. So this is what got you excited about the prehistoric planet for sure, and for geology as a secondary thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually incredible. So. What's the coolest fossil you've ever yourself found? Maybe not in the United States or maybe anywhere in the world.
Oh, I found what's the coolest one I found? I found a really cool piece of petrified wood. There's also one deposit in Iowa City where I did my undergraduate and my PhD work, where you can get some pyritized stuff. So you get fossils that have been turned into fool's gold.
Really? I've never heard of that.
Oh, it's so we have one down the hall.
We'll have to dig that up.
Yes. So mostly they are pyritized. Oh, I spelled it completely wrong. Pyritized brachiopods usually, and that's what we have in the hallway down there. And I found a small, really crummy one, nowhere near these quality, but basically they look like they're gold. Their entire atomic structure has been replaced, like as they decayed. Sulfur and the other minerals required to make pyrite were abundant in the environment, and so they were entirely replaced by pyrite. So, yeah, pretty cool. I mean, it makes for a great picture.
So these are fossilized animals that are turned into the mineral pyrite, which for the people who are not familiar with pyrite is known as fool's gold, because as you can see, it kind of resembles gold a little bit.
It smells though. It has
smells like
sulfur
sulfur,
in it. Yeah.
right? Yeah, it stinks. Isn't that incredible?
Uh-huh.
I've actually never heard of this before, so I'm very happy to know about this.
They're great. And yeah, we have one in the hallway.
See, Broward has everything.
We do.
Isn't this incredible? Now, did you know that Tiger Tail Lake, our recreational facility here at Broward, John Gruber is the guy who runs it. He takes a trip, I think twice a year, a camping trip to a little bit north of here.
Peace Valley or Shark?
To Shark Valley or something. Peace Valley?
There's one with Peace and one with Sharks.
Yeah, Shark Valley is down in the Everglades. That's the place where you can go to see crocodiles. Or crocodiles, excuse me. I did not say crocodiles.
Hey, there are some around here.
Yeah, there are, but they're not at Shark Valley. Those are alligators.
Okay. Do you know how you tell the difference between a crocodile and an alligator?
It's the snout, right?
No.
No?
One will see you later. One will see you after a while. But no, you're right. It is snout shaping.
That's a little funny joke, science joke there, ladies and gentlemen. Science joke.
But yeah, you're right. The snouts are different as well as their color.
Okay.
So
crocodile's a little duller
color. A little
color,
more
right?
yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
he also has a trip to, it's outside of Arcadia, and it's where they go fossil hunting.
Yeah.
On the Peace River. It's called the Peace River.
Somebody told me about that not long ago, and I definitely need to get in on that.
I'll put you in contact with John Gruber. Anyone who's listened to the show, Tiger Tail Lake's got these great trips for students. Faculty is welcome to go. The Science Club here at Broward has gone before. I'm sure the Sustainability Club will get hooked into this. It's a great resource we have. And if you ever have a chance to take advantage of Tiger Tail Lake's facilities, I'm telling you, go meet the people down there. They're great.
Yeah,
they're just great people. So, wow. So you got excited about fossils and geology at a young age. And when you went to school,
I was a history major.
You were a history major. So, well, that kind of follows, though, because you're interested in prehistoric life. That's ancient history, before ancient history, actually, prehistoric history. Prehistory.
Well, I actually was interested in archaeology.
Tell us more, Indiana Jones.
So I am a half archaeologist. I'm technically what I consider myself as a geoarchaeologist. So I wanted to go get my degree in archaeology, and I didn't know how to do it. Okay. So I went to college and I was like, okay, well, Indiana Jones was a historian. Great step right there, taking cues from movies.
Steven Spielberg knows.
Found out I should be in anthropology.
Okay.
So I got into anthropology, and then my mom was like, you should definitely have a double major so you're a little more marketable. Side note, it's not booming out there for anthropologists. But so I did. I doubled. I was like, okay, well, the only other thing I know is rocks. So let's be a geology major.
Right.
So I double majored in geology and anthropology.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and then I kind of bounced around a little bit. I actually ended up getting my master's in anthropology, focusing in on archaeology, Mesoamerican archaeology, and I worked in Belize. And then I got my PhD in geoscience, focusing in on geoarchaeology.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's very fun, but I was able to keep myself broad so I could kind of skip around between disciplines, which was a really helpful thing for me.
So there we go. We got the camera to work again. So when you were going to graduate school, well, first of all, let's not even go to graduate school. Let's talk about high school. When you were in high school, what were the kind of courses you were taking, or what were you taking advanced placement? Were you like the brainiac of the school, or?
I came from a very, very small school. The only college credit we could get was going to the community college and taking calculus. Okay. So I took Calc 1 there, and I got a B+ and freaked out because I'd only gotten A's. The first B+ hurts. The rest of them don't hurt so bad. True. So I took a lot of everything. I took a lot of history. The only thing that I kind of avoided was art because I can't draw. I can make things, which was something I should have figured out. Like, now I love art and I really appreciate it. But when it was like, draw something, I was really bad. So I took a lot of history, I took a lot of English, I took a lot of math, sciences, you know. Our school was, again, very small. I graduated with about 106 people.
Wow, okay. You got a pretty big school. I graduated with 73.
Nice. But I played sports. So I was in softball, volleyball for a little bit, tennis and basketball.
Wow, good for you.
And then I did drama. So I was in the plays, I was in the musicals.
Singer, actor, dancer,
both.
triple threat?
Terrible dancer, but I could do the other two okay. And I also was in band. I played trumpet and bass guitar. Wow. So I was in the jazz band too.
So you're a pretty well-rounded student.
Yes, I did a lot of everything.
Did you keep up any of those things when you got into college, or?
Not really.
Right.
I still play tennis.
Okay.
But you know, like team sports are hard because it's hard to get everyone's schedule on time.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I still have my trumpet, but it's been neglected.
Right. So when you're in high school and you're trying to get into college, and you probably knew you wanted to go to college. Did your parents go to college, or were your parents?
My mom got her associate's degree
Okay.
from a school that has a different name now. It's now Truman State.
Okay.
So it's about an hour south, which an hour south of my town is Missouri.
Okay.
So very, very southern Iowa. So she went there, and she is a dental hygienist.
Oh, all right. Very good.
So, or dental assistant. She's not a hygienist. She's an assistant. Sorry, Mom. And then my sister had already gone to Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
And she was already I think she was a junior. She was 3 or 4 years ahead of me. She was a senior when I was a freshman.
Okay.
So she'd already gone to Iowa. And my mom was like, please don't go out of state.
Okay.
So for in-state and wanting to do something with archaeology, it was the University of Iowa. So, and
that's in what city?
Iowa City.
Iowa City.
University of Iowa in Iowa City, Iowa.
Can't forget where you are.
I know, right? We're not in Iowa County, though.
That's peculiar.
I know.
We won't make too many comments about that. So when you applied to college, did you apply to one college, or you applied around? So you just applied to Iowa.
Yep.
University of Iowa.
Yep.
And you got there, and you were overwhelmed, shocked, happy?
Happy, very happy. It was great to be in a big city. Well, okay, it's only about 50,000 people. So nothing compared to here. But it was huge. And like it was really exciting to be on a big campus and to get that feeling of like living in the dorms and making new friends, going to classes, like finding where your classes were. Because there's two halves to Iowa, the University of Iowa. There's like one half the river and the other half the river. And so trying to find your way around was at sometimes overwhelming.
Right.
But there was so many things to do. It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, compared to a small town, you move up to a bigger town. Because I kind of had the same history. I lived in a small town, and I moved to a big town to go to university, and the big town was not even classified as a city.
Yeah.
It was just a bigger town.
Yeah.
Like I think my little town would be technically classified as a hamlet.
Oh, yeah.
And the place I went to was classified a town, and it was outside of the city about a half an hour. So, but they had a lot more offer because the students were there.
Right.
You know, and the students had all kinds of clubs and stuff. So when you were growing up in high school, your parents were encouraging you to go to college? Or?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think it was always one of those things where it's like, nope, you get done with high school, you go to college. And my mom, we had a community college in our town, Indian Hills, and my mom really wanted me to go there. She was, I'm the baby. She was not ready to let go. And I did. I took a few classes there because like the community college presents a great opportunity to take some gen ed classes, so to transition, learning how to study.
Right.
While not wasting a ton of money on tuition.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, and like you can live at home or somewhere cheaper because Centerville rent was way cheaper than Iowa City rent. I lived at home when I was taking Indian Hills classes. But it was a great opportunity, and I got some gen eds right out of the way, so I got through with 2 degrees in 4 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So but you started your career at a community college?
Briefly.
Took a few courses?
Yep.
Right. No, I like what you're saying, though. I think everyone who works at Broward will agree with you that taking the first couple of years of especially nowadays where undergraduate degrees have gotten outrageously expensive. And just FYI to all you people out there, the money that you're spending does not go to faculty. It goes somewhere else, and we haven't figured out where yet. We'll keep looking. So that's pretty cool. So as a little girl, you found fossils in your dad's quarry, which is kind of cool that your dad owned a quarry, quite frankly. Then you went to school, did some courses in a junior college, kind of like Broward, and then you went on to Iowa City to go to the big school.
Yeah.
And then you went to graduate school. But first of all, when you're in undergrad, did you find the transition from high school to college, because the first 2 years of any university is college?
Oh, yeah.
Did you find that transition from high school, did you find it was much more difficult?
Socially, it was fine. Made friends easy, but learning how to study was something that took some time because I was used to just being able to sit through the lectures and get the material. And so learning how I studied and not just reading the textbook was helpful. Like that took me a couple years. So I struggled at first. Kept a decent enough GPA to get into grad school, but I wasn't a 4.0 by any means. And learning how to manage my time. I'm big into time management now. Like every semester, even through grad school and even now, I set up an Excel spreadsheet where I divide my day into the courses I teach, my office hours, my writing hours, my own hours, and whatever else I have to do. So I can really make sure that I'm being responsible, because I was not always responsible with my time. Yeah.
So how would you advise a high school senior graduating, coming to Broward? How would you advise them to, what's the first thing you would advise them to do in regards to study habits and time management?
First off, take the syllabus seriously. The syllabus is the most important guideline to your entire semester. Everything you need to know is in there. So it'll tell you when you need to be prepared for exams, and you should be studying a little bit every day. Like 15 minutes, like make flashcards. That was my biggest thing, was note cards. I have piles of note cards.
Cool, very cool.
So like any terms I didn't know or any concepts, I could break them down into a note card. And so then every night I would spend a few minutes flipping through my note cards.
Okay.
And when you review over longer periods of time, instead of trying to cram, you actually retain. And it's that retention of knowledge that's going to be really, really helpful as you progress through a degree program.
Right. So,
oh, and go to class.
Yeah, go to class. Please go to class.
If you don't go to class, you're going to miss a lot.
Do the assigned work. And when you go to study, make sure you study the assigned work, because that's what we think is important.
Right? We're giving you tips and tricks to what we think you need to be
Exactly.
doing.
That is the exam review, people. Come on now. So that's pretty neat. So you went into college, you graduated. What was your favorite course in college?
I had so many favorite courses, but I had a favorite professor, and everything he taught was absolutely my favorite thing.
What made him good?
He kind of hated everyone, but he was amazing. He was no nonsense. His lectures were just pure information packed in it. He taught Mesoamerican archaeology, and which was my favorite. I actually work on the Maya, and so he taught Mesoamerican archaeology and all these different Mesoamerican courses. And so everything he said was important. Every single word out of his mouth was just absolutely. He was one of those professors where you're just like, wow, you are brilliant, and I feel very special for getting to be in your class.
Right.
So he just had a way about him. Like he's Canadian.
Of course, because he's grumpy.
He was great. Dr. Charlton, he was fabulous. He passed away while I was doing my master's, actually. So it was really kind of interesting. He started his career in Belize, and my first field season in Belize was when he passed. But he died with his boots on. He was teaching a field school, so went out like an archaeologist.
Wow.
But he definitely was like a mentor, and one of those people who he kept me going on where I needed to be. He taught me my field methods, and so every class I took with him was my favorite class.
Very good.
Yeah.
There's always that one professor that most people have that
right.
They just live with. And it's kind of the same story. Like the professor that got me into research chemistry was Dr. Rick Langler. He's also dead. It's kind of sad as you get older, your mentors start to pass,
right.
but then you become mentors.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting how that works. The circle of life, as they say. But he was a grumpy kind of guy. He was a no-nonsense, grumpy guy.
Exactly. And I don't think he was I don't know, the more you got to know him, the less grumpy he was. It's just he had no time for nonsense.
Right.
And
I think part of it too, and even from our point of view, we're not really grumpy. We're just kind of standoffish because we don't really want to get to know people too well because you're leaving in 2 years, and it's kind of like we get to know you, we get to like you as a student,
and you have heartbreak every 2
years. Then you're gone, and when students leave, they very rarely come back, not because they don't want to, but because they're busy.
They get busy. They go on to bigger and better things.
Exactly. They have lives now. They have some of them get married, some of them get jobs, and they can't come back. So you went off to graduate school.
I did. I went to Texas.
So you went from small town Iowa
to San Antonio.
To San Antonio, a big city in Texas. Wow. Now that's culture shock.
Yes. It was more heat shock than anything, too, because I moved in July. And South Texas is hot. But I had a great cohort. I went to the University of Texas at San Antonio, and Dr. Laura Levy was my advisor. She was great. She's fabulous. We still talk. My cohort was great. We had a bunch of really good people. I learned so much in my master's. It's a whole different way of learning when you get into seminar-based classes instead of lecture-based classes. And she took me to the field for the first time. So I went to Belize to a little site called Wari Camp. up in very, very northwest Belize in the
All
middle
right.
of the
We have to
rainforest.
pull this up. We got to see this. This sounds interesting.
Well, Worry Camp is not going to show up on the internet.
Let's make sure we can. Oh, well, you can
but
show us some cool stuff,
I
I'm
can
sure.
show you
Let's
the
go
program
here.
for Belize.
There we go.
So I can show you that one.
But you also study Mesoamerican stuff.
Yes,
so-
Mesoamerica is going to be like Aztecs, the Toltecs, the Maya, the Olmecs, all of those people thrown together.
So why don't we start with the Aztecs and the Maya, because I think our students will be interested in that. I know I am.
Mm-hmm.
So then we'll move into other stuff.
So this is considered Mesoamerica here.
So it's basically southern Mexico.
It's central Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, a little bit of El Salvador, Honduras, generally Guatemala. Sorry, I blanked there. But they're split into highlands and lowlands for the Maya. So the highlands are in the mountains, the lowlands are more in the Yucatan. The Aztec mostly hung out up here, and then the Maya were mostly hanging out down here. The Olmec were on they were on two sides. They were coastal here and coastal here, if we can see that. So coastal on two sides of the area there.
It's pretty narrow.
Yeah.
So they probably travel back and forth.
There's probably a larger area that they actually were involved in, but we can't find the evidence of it. But the Olmecs are famous for their giant heads.
Oh, okay.
Can
you show us that?
Yeah, of course. They're the giant head people. Those heads are amazing. And they're carved out of...
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
They're carved out of stone. They are usually basalt or some sort of it's pretty easy to carve, like when you're good. Me, I would never have... I'd be lost. But those are the Olmecs. They tended to make this the baby face.
Isn't it amazing what people can do when they don't have TV or the internet?
Exactly, right? Imagine what we could do. Maybe make a podcast. Oh wait, that's on the TV and the internet.
I'm telling you, it's both. You can listen to this in your car on the way into school.
Right. So the Aztec were the ones that are like. There's this kind of misplacement, I guess. The Aztec were seen as bloodthirsty, and the Maya were the peaceful scientists. And no, they were both equally bloodthirsty and equally brilliant. They both charted the skies. The Aztec did not develop a written language necessarily, but they have some pictograms. So they do have a way of writing. They don't have an alphabet.
Oh, okay.
But the Maya developed a full-on writing system. They also had observatories. They had domed structures made of rock.
Wow.
So I'll show you the one at Chichen Itza. Because it's a marvel. So you can see that they actually were able to stack up these rocks into a dome with no mortar.
That's
they had
incredible.
lime plaster on top of it. The lime was actually made from the limestone. And then all these buildings would have been painted in amazingly gaudy colors. They loved reds, blues, bright colors. The Maya are famous for a blue, Maya blue, which we recently, well not we, but scientists recently figured out what Maya blue is made of. But this is, I believe, part of the Bonampak murals. And that blue in the background is what they're very, very famous for. So they use these yellows, blues. So all their buildings would have been painted.
Wow.
And the Aztecs as well loved red. So they would have painted everything with these bright colors. So these stone monuments that we see would have been very dynamic. Like the Acropolis in Greece, that would have been painted with incredibly gaudy colors. They were bright and garish, just absolutely beautiful. So
it was blue like a... Did it have a reason why they liked blue and red so much, or was it just because they could make it?
Blue is hard to make, and so blue is not a very common color. So they could make it,
Okay.
and they loved it. So
No, it's a beautiful color.
Right, it's great,
especially because it's been there for so long and it's still beautiful. It's incredible.
Yeah, the Maya were pretty fab. So yeah, my first time in Belize, let's go over here, and shout out to the program for Belize. It is in the very, very most northwest corner in the Rio Bravo. Oh, there's camp. It's pretty great. Have a really, really fun time down there. It's absolutely amazing. It is way up here.
Okay.
The closest place to get internet is at the local Mennonite town.
There's Mennonites in Belize?
Oh yeah, tons. They are really great. They live all over down there. Belize is very dynamic, very diverse too. They have great ice cream and great cinnamon rolls. The Mennonites up there do.
Good for them.
So you
Get
go
your
there.
carb load on and get back to work.
Exactly. So you were in the jungle. There's no electricity except for when the generator's running, and that's when they're making food. And yeah, it was really rustic, really fun. Every day was a new adventure. One morning, somebody got up and you heard a shriek. There was a big yellow boa constrictor sitting on the latrine. So we had like the long rows with holes, and we had toilet seat lids to keep the critters out.
Right.
And one of them was basking on the heat from the
from the fermentation.
And so there was
That's
just
awesome.
a big boa constrictor in there.
Okay, so how did you get rid of the boa constrictor? Just kind
Somebody
of
went out
entice
with a
them?
bucket and plopped it in the bucket, walked it to the jungle, and let it go.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So how did you get there? How did you get to this field camp?
Oh gosh.
From Iowa, or was this from Texas?
This is from Texas.
Okay.
So.
So you flew from San Antonio to maybe Mexico City or something?
I think we went to Houston, and then Houston to the Belize airport.
Oh, okay.
They have an international airport.
What's the city that you would have flown into?
Belize City.
Okay.
So that was the territorial capital. And so Belize used to be British Honduras until the late 70s.
Okay.
And then the capital moved from the coast, which if you go on a cruise and they stop at Belize, they'll stop at Belize City. But Belmopond is more centrally located, and that's the current capital. And so you'd fly into Belize City, and then you would take these little, they're much better now. They've really improved the roads in the last 5 years or so. But you'd just drive on these little, in your junker, drive out there. Because you always have like the junkie trucks because you're going to get them stuck in the jungle. So then, yeah, drive.
So from the coast to where that dot is, that's got to be 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6.
Yeah. Back then, it's got a couple hours cut off now that the roads are nicer.
So they paved them a little bit. So you're on dirt tracks the whole way in.
Yes, and
Yeah, exactly. I've done dirt track driving in Canada, going back to cut wood with my father, and I couldn't imagine doing it for more than half an hour.
Oh, yeah.
6 hours of up and down and rocking back and forth.
And we were in one of those, like the early extended cab trucks where the back seats just flipped down.
Right, yeah.
So there were 3 people in the front and me in the back on the duffels, pretending I'm buckled in. It was good. It was good. And like the 3 of us, the grad students, made it there before our advisor by a day or 2. So
of course,
we had to
you
drive.
guys set up.
Yes. So and one of us had been there before, but it had been like 10 years.
Okay.
So we were just like hoping the roads were the same.
Wow.
Hoping we could find it. And we did. It was fine, but it's an adventure.
Wow. So this was in graduate school. Wow, that's incredible. What did you find anything really cool that you could put your name on to?
We were doing a bunch of surveys, and so none of it's been published yet, but we found I had my first or my only Indiana Jones moment.
Okay, cool.
So when you walk surveys, you're just going through dense jungle, walking lines back and forth, looking for mounds. And the tough part is archaeological mounds look a lot like hills until you get closer and you see toppled block of rock. So we found a really, really cool, huge structure that was just like a longhouse or something. But it was really big, and while we were on that one, we smelled cat urine.
Okay.
And there are jaguars there.
Oh.
So we quickly mapped and walked away. On our last day of mapping, on the last line, we were all exhausted, and it's incredibly hot. You have to wear like full gear, so you're just dripping.
Or like mosquito gear? Or?
Not really mosquito gear, but you had to have like long sleeves, a shirt on underneath that, your hat, your bandana, long pants, because there's ticks, there's bugs, there's everything.
Oh, okay. You're trying to keep the jungle off of you.
Yes. Right. And so there were a couple of howler monkeys that lived in our area.
Cool.
And they're great. They just like to sit there and watch you. They're super cute. But one girl and I, her name's Tony, she and I stayed at the end, and we were looking at the rocks that were there to figure out if they had terraced this hill or if it was natural. And the advisor, Laura, and the other girl, Sarah, walked the line to see if there was anything down there. And suddenly we hear some commotion. And Laura and Sarah come out there. They're walking really fast. They're like, walk, go, climb the hill, climb the hill, climb the hill. There are spider monkeys chasing them.
Oh, wow.
Shaking the branches, like dropping vines. And they weren't throwing any, monkey business, but they were throwing vines at us. And they were chasing us. And so we're like, you can't run or else that antagonizes some of them more. So we were like walking up this really steep hill with all of our packs on and trying to get up there. And all of a sudden, dead silence. All of the spider monkeys disappeared. We look up. There are 3 howler monkeys. They had basically stood there, stared down the spider monkeys, and they had to turn away. So we gave them all our oranges.
Wow, that's cool.
But yeah, and the best part was they were chased away from a temple.
Oh, okay.
They found a temple back there, and so we had to go back into spider monkey territory the next day to map the temple, but we found a temple.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So tell us about the temple. I mean, that's...
It's like the basic temple there, like it wasn't like, the big, you think about in Apocalypto or whatever. It was a small structure, decently big, but there was a structure with a courtyard behind it where you would have had like ceremonies and stuff, but the temple had actually been looted.
Okay.
So we were just there to survey. We didn't excavate, but we did find like somebody had come out there with like an inloader and just scooped it out. That's what they do. They come in and they dig a big trench through it, and they take all the good stuff from inside and leave a big gaping hole in the side of the building.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it really is. And there's looting's been around forever, but it is hard to find an undisturbed site without a looting trench in it. So yeah, found some nice like carved stones, like corbelled roofing and whatnot, but we haven't gone back to excavate yet.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so she's trying to, Dr. Levy is trying to survey this really, really huge site of Worry Camp. We were this temple was 2 miles from site center.
Wow, 2 miles from where you guys were camping out.
Well, no, from the center of Worry Camp, which we never made it to that year.
Oh, okay.
Worry Camp itself was huge. And so Worry in Maya means pig.
Okay.
And one of our surveys, I grew up on a farm, and we raised hogs. So I've heard a lot of pig sounds, a lot of animal sounds in general. And we were walking through one of our lines, and suddenly we hear a monster. Like, it was an unearthly sound, just like, we don't have machetes because the guys who were cutting our trail were ahead of us, and we're like, oh my gosh, what is this? And then we see part of it. We saw it. It was a wild hog.
Pull it up. Let's have a look at a wild Belize hog.
Yeah. Let's see if this will work. Nope. Worry hog. So it was it's mostly called a peccary. But,
okay, peccaries, yeah.
They can get pretty mean. And hogs are known to be mean, and you can't get downwind or you can't be upwind from them because if they smell you, they'll charge.
Wow.
So our lines were marked with like sharpened sticks. So we had sharpened sticks and a mound to climb up on. And the mound that we could climb up on, we had nicknamed Tarantula Mound because the first day we made it there, we had stopped to take a break and somebody turns next to them and a tarantula crawled out of the hole.
Oh.
So we chose the spiders over that.
They're smaller.
Yes, and less violent. So we hit on Tarantula Mound until he walked away.
So he just got tired of you.
Yep. Well, he never saw us, which was great, because if he had seen us, it would have been a very different story.
So why was he vocalizing this? That's what they do.
He heard us.
Oh, so he's warning you to get away from here.
Yeah, and one time I saw part of a coati, which is the cutest animal in all of Belize, except for the tapir. Okay, there's a lot of cute animals in Belize. But the coati is kind of like this little raccoon lemur.
That's beautiful.
They always have their little tails up.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're really fun little animals.
That's quite an experience to go to someplace like that.
It was like I saw so many new things there.
Usually at places like that, the food is incredible.
Oh.
That's not what it is about camping out.
Unbelievable.
There's always one person that can cook, and they cook really well.
Oh gosh, so one of the big things was the ladies from the nearby village would come in and they'd take shifts and they would cook for us. It was impossible to get fat because we were walking so much on the survey.
Right.
Like I think I lost like 20 pounds.
Wow.
It was great. I got married 9 days later.
Good for you.
Right after I came back.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's worked out. 8 years later.
So far things are good.
But yeah, food was great. The people were great. Belize is a wonderful country. I encourage anyone to go there. It's a great place.
Okay, so we're getting the history of Tawny Tibbits. So, Quarry High School, some junior college, University of Iowa, San Antonio, University of Texas, San Antonio. So you've progressed from a little town to a big town to one of the biggest cities in Texas.
Then back to my little town.
And then back to a small town. So after graduate school, you got a master's degree.
I got my master's in anthropology from the University of Texas at San Antonio, and then I went and did my PhD at the University of Iowa.
Okay, so you went back to Iowa to get a PhD.
Yep.
In what now?
Geoscience.
What is geoscience?
It is all the earth and environmental sciences. So you can do, I did geoarchaeology, you can do paleontology, vertebrate or invertebrate. You can do geophysics, you can do geochemistry, you can do structural geology, petrology, mineralogy, all of the ologies in geology. So geosciences is just a little more inclusive because it also deals with the planetary stuff.
Okay. So let me ask you this question then. What would you tell someone who, there we go, we're back here now. Let me just hide this. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Say I'm a student, 17 or 18-year-old student. And I say, hey, Dr. Tibbits, I want to do geology.
Yeah.
And I want to be a geologist. And I want to do geolifying things.
Yes.
Would you say, do it? Or would
Oh,
you be
yeah.
like, what the heck's wrong with you? It's crazy.
100%. It's great. There's lots of opportunities. You can travel the world.
Okay.
I have several people who I knew as a grad student who are undergrads who are all across the globe. My one recommendation would be stay broad. Stay broad. Because the earlier you get yourself into a niche, the more limited you are. If you stay broad, like you can do a little bit of everything, because I can do some mineralogy, I can do some petrology, I can do some paleo, and I can do some soils. So I can be broad, and I can go in a lot of different directions. The more narrow you are, the more limited you are in your options.
So, like for example, what would you say are the top 10 careers for a geologist?
I can give you a top 3.
Okay, top 3.
Okay, so hydrogeology is huge right now.
What is that?
That is dealing with how water flows and how water moves through different materials.
Okay.
So not just groundwater, but also like dealing with, developing dams, developing hydroelectricity. Hydrogeology is just, you also figure out how oil would move. So how fracking will work, where you expect the oil and the gases to go.
Okay.
So hydro is a huge field right now. And then geophysics is really big right now. That is generally looking at earthquakes and how the Earth is structured.
Cool.
So geophysicists they're the math nerds of the geology world. They're great. They are really good with computers, and they're some of the smartest of us. They work with models and different programs to try to figure out how the physical aspects of rocks will work under different stresses.
Okay.
So they can deal with how they look at a lot of seismic data to see what the structure of the rocks are and how they will react to different things and different stresses and stimuli.
Wow.
So geophysics is a hot topic right now, and environmental geology is big.
Okay, what would that entail?
That's looking at how the environment can be like water pollutants, groundwater contamination, saltwater encroachment, how you can mess up your aquifers, or how you can remediate things too. So sandstone is a really good scrubber for aquifers. So if you have a contaminated water source and you can make it go through sandstone over a very long period of time, like months to years, it will be pure water on the other side.
Okay. That's cool.
All the contaminants will be scrubbed away.
Salt too?
I'm not sure about salt.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they deal with a lot of like how to help the environment and how to help bounce back, or how to deal with when contaminations happen, how to deal with it. So, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, those are some really good areas to go into these days.
So in Florida, our geology is fairly simple. It's mostly just
Limestone,
coral and limestone,
dolomite.
right?
Yeah.
What's dolomite?
It is a magnesium-rich form of limestone.
We must see dolomite.
Yes. Well, there's dolomite and dolostone.
Well, now, I'll have 2 things to Google for us. Dolomite.
There we go. You can do it in one. So, one of the really cool things about dolomite and dolostone, which is the rock version of it, is it's not being formed on Earth right now.
It's not being formed.
Yeah. So, dolomite it's just it's a rock. You have to have an area where you have both calcium and magnesium enriched in seawater.
Which we have plenty of that here. That's basically hard water, right?
But you have to have it in a really high concentration of magnesium.
Okay.
And so they're still working on models on how dolomite forms. So pretty neat stuff. They're working through it. They think it would have had to be like kind of a restricted ocean where you had an influx of magnesium. But dolomite, the rock, is pretty cool.
Wow, we had those in Florida?
Yep, different places. There's a lot of really coul stuff in Florida, actually. So.
Well, I didn't know. I thought Florida had pretty boring geology, but I didn't know about these cool things.
We have limonite.
Limonite?
Yeah.
Hey, that's cool.
Right? It's a really cool, it's made with iron. So it has a lot of iron in it, which is why it looks rusty. It's rusted. So.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, we got some really cool stuff around here. The islands, the Bahamas just nearby, have bauxite, and the Trinidad and Tobago has it as well. And
wow.
Yeah. Bauxite has what we call a pistolic texture. So that's what those dots are. And it is the ore for aluminum.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So you take this rock, you crush it up, and you can smelt out the aluminum.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Right?
I've never seen bauxite. I mean, I knew what bauxite was.
Right.
I've just never seen it.
Do you know what the state rock of Florida is?
I have to say I do not.
Well, what I looked up was agatized coral, actually, is what I read. So agatized coral looks like that.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so it's coral that's been turned into basically chert. So it's all of
Chert?
so flint, chert, like arrowheads.
Wow.
Yeah. So arrowheads are made of SiO2, which is quartz. It's a silica oxide.
Mhm.
And so in this case, all of the carbonates that the coral had made their structure out of have all been replaced with silica.
Incredible.
Yeah. So that's what I read. I could be wrong, but that's what I read was the state rock of Florida. There it is, Tampa Bay.
They want $35 for it.
Yeah, not bad for polished.
That's pretty nice, actually.
Yeah.
It's cute.
Right.
I mean-
So we happen to have some. My husband and I have some. So I felt
Really?
like we were
You
ready.
were ahead of the times.
Right.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I had no idea that Florida had such interesting geology. I assumed it was all just
Yeah,
coral.
our oldest rocks aren't very old, though. They are Eocene, which is within the last 12,000 years. Or no, sorry, that's the Holocene. The Eocene was not too far. It is actually an epoch rather than a period. So the Eocene is from 56 million years ago to 33.9 million years ago. It is in the Paleogene period, in the Cenozoic era. We are in the Holocene
Those are
epoch.
all fancy words.
Yes, for our big old time scale. But the Eocene is when most of the oldest rocks in Florida are from. So up to 56 million years.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, not too bad, right?
Yeah, I always thought geology was a fascinating science.
Yeah.
I just never got into it. My college wasn't big into this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We were bigger into other things. So you go to graduate school.
Yep.
You graduate with a PhD.
Yep.
You get your PhD. And
5 years.
5. That's not bad,
Got
actually.
it before 30.
That's pretty good. That's really good.
It was one of my goals because, like, ever since I was little, I knew I wanted to be some sort of a teacher, and I knew I wanted to do some sort of archaeology.
Mhm.
And I had a really great, my advisor in my PhD, Dr. Bettis, close.
Hey, not bad.
He really helped me get through. Like, he helped push me and keep me going, and got it done pretty quick.
Good.
For a PhD.
That is pretty fast for a PhD.
So-
Most people don't. Most people take 6 or 7 years to get a PhD. So
Yeah, and I did 3 field seasons.
wow, and all of them in Belize. That's incredible.
My dissertation was looking at granite, and I figured out using portable X-ray fluorescence. So I had
Fancy.
my advisor bought me a ray gun. So it looks about the size of a hairdryer, and you push it up against any object that's not alive, and you shoot X-rays at it, and you excite them, and you make the atomic structure fluoresce. So when you zap it, your orbitals, one of the electrons will be ejected or will drop down, depending on what kind of spectrometer you have. And so that light that it emits when your electron moves, it captures that with the fluorescence. And it gives you a complete output of what element you have in your material and in what proportion.
That's incredible. So you can kind of identify the mineral
Right.
pretty much right away.
I developed a way to differentiate between granites, which had not been done before. So was really excited about that. I looked through, there are 3 different groups of granite in Belize within one big mountain range. And I could differentiate between the 3 of them. And I used that to help source archaeological tools. So to help try to put together exchange routes. So we haven't gotten that far yet. We're still getting more work done.
Incredible. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So I spent 3 years collecting rocks and going to different archaeological sites and analyzing their tools.
So when you go into a country like Belize, obviously you just can't come in without the country's permission.
Right.
And obviously you can't take things out without their permission.
Which was what was great about portable X-ray fluorescence. I didn't have to remove any artifacts. Nobody really cares about rocks, but I got a customs agent.
You got a what now?
A customs agent.
Oh, okay.
So he helped me with all the customs paperwork and helping me with exporting rocks and stuff.
From Belize to here, right? Yeah, because I know for a while it was a big problem in some countries, especially poorer countries, where people would go in and just take what they wanted. And it doesn't happen anymore. I don't think you're allowed to. I know in Canada, I'm pretty sure the United States, they just don't allow you to bring things in from other countries.
Right.
You have to have proper paperwork.
Yep.
That you have permission.
Rocks
Thing that was
are a little easier.
Yeah, rocks would be a little easier, but still though, they don't want their natural history taken.
Yep.
In chemistry, people used to collect coral and stuff, and they would just take it from a country and find some really cool drug worth millions of dollars, and the country wouldn't get a squat. They get nothing.
Yeah, that's the story of South America, isn't
Right.
it?
But it's not like that anymore.
Right.
You need permission to take coral out, and usually the countries sign agreements where they get 5% or 3%.
And that was what was really tough about this was until I got in with some of the archaeologists who could help me, my first season was just kind of like me stumbling my way through the dark. And so I still had connections at UTSA, the San Antonio place, and they helped me.
Mm-hmm.
They helped me get through the legality of getting rocks out. So they were like, Dr. Yeager and Dr. Brown were indispensable in getting my stuff out. So, but lots of legal hoops to have to jump through. But
lots of non-signed things you have to do.
Right, because I need it in order, because PXRF is a new thing. It's a new technology. So in order to prove that I was doing it right, I had to do other things to it. I couldn't just zap it and say, I'm right, as much as I wanted to.
Right.
I had to take back the rocks. I had to make thin sections. So microscope slides that I could identify the mineralogy of these rocks. Right. I had to powder them to send them off to a more traditional XRF lab. I had to do microprobe work, electron microprobe work on them. So I had to get out my raw samples.
Basically proof of principle type thing. Yeah. That's rigorous science.
Oh, yeah.
Rigorous science is boring. Let's just tell our students
and
that.
Expensive.
It's expensive, and it's expensive, and it's boring, and it's absolutely necessary.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all these things people who don't do science don't understand that, that we just can't jump. You have to methodically walk, which is kind of fun for people to learn, and then you realize how it's monotonous, but it's worth it when you get the results and everything works out fine.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So there we go. You're done graduate school. Did you do a postdoc?
Nope.
So you just went job searching, right?
Yep. Well, not even. I didn't even wait till I was done. My last year, when I was dissertating, I started applying for jobs, and I applied for maybe most weeks. I applied for at least 2. I think before I got this one, I applied for at least 40 jobs.
Wow. That's not bad though, 40.
No, but I mean, geology jobs are pretty, because I knew I wanted to be teaching. So the first year, and I actually applied for some archaeology jobs too, teaching archaeology. Not many people are looking for geoarchaeologists, surprisingly. So, it was a long search.
Right.
It was a long search. So after I graduated, I spent a year adjuncting. And then I got the call from Broward College.
You were really excited.
I was really excited.
We're an amazing school.
I had never heard of it because Iowa doesn't get out much.
Well, I think one of the problems not really a problem, it's just how it is, we don't have a football team.
Right, that too.
And we don't get on TV every weekend, So,
I found the job advertisement, applied. My dog broke my flash drive. So when I got the call, I was like,
Ruh-roh.
I don't know. I was like, I hope, because I didn't know who my references were.
Oh, right.
So I didn't know who to warn because I had my archaeology references and my geology references.
Right. Exactly.
And I was like, I emailed them all. I was like, sorry.
Just in case.
So that was really embarrassing, but it worked out.
Well, that's how it works. You just got to keep pushing until you get what you want, and eventually you will. It just might take time.
Yep.
But you were smart to start before you graduated.
Oh, it was hard.
It's very hard.
You had to really carve out time every week to put on those apps. They're not easy applications.
No, they take time.
And you can't cookie cutter it.
Not totally, no. Some things you can. But
you can get a nice template, and I had archaeology versions of everything and geology versions of everything.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I did the same thing with chemistry because I was just desperate to get a job.
Exactly.
I knew I wanted to move to Florida. I knew I wanted to teach.
I knew I wanted to teach. I knew I ever since I got my first teaching gig was in my master's. I subbed in for a class called Death and Dying.
That sounds really interesting.
It was an amazing class. The anthropology of death is fascinating. And
come back to that.
Ever since then, I knew I needed to teach. I was like, this is what I can do. I can talk.
It's addictive. Teaching is addictive.
Oh my gosh.
Once you get, especially once you get good at it or comfortable with it, it's not the challenge of teaching for me is not the subject, of course, because we're all experts in our subjects. It's how do I get this person who's on their phone excited to put their phone down?
Yep.
And I think you have to be entertaining.
Right. I'm lucky I can have props.
Right.
So I pass around rocks all the time.
Yeah, pass around stones or but you have to be entertaining. You have to have a loud voice. You have to be commanding. You know, and it's a fun job. It's a very fun job. It's demanding, and people don't understand until they do it how demanding the job really is. It's not every day you have to come
and you don't get
totally
summers
turned
off.
on. No, we all work the summer.
Right.
I think everyone in this building works in the summer.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of misconceptions about teaching. Like, you just go in there and you do the same thing every day.
Right, exactly. No, we don't know.
I mean, you can, but...
Yeah, but you won't be...
Right?
You won't get
fun.
recognized.
Yeah,
it won't be
students don't
fun.
enjoy that.
You won't move up in your career. You won't become better at your craft.
Right.
And I think if you look at science people don't do that. We're not like that.
Right.
We don't sit back. We push the edge of the envelope, as much as we can until the envelope tears, and then we go back and we fix it and push it again.
Yep.
That's what we do, and especially in science, we're just like, everyone who does science knows this.
You always want to do more fun stuff.
So, okay, death and dying.
Oh.
Tell us about that class. That sounds fascinating.
It was wonderful. I was the teaching assistant for Sonia Alcanini, Dr. Alcanini. She was great. She's a Peruvian archaeologist, and or Bolivian. She's South American archaeologist. She was fabulous. So she taught about like the archaeology of death, but as well as current death rituals, like how different people treat the dead. So here we don't touch the dead. Once somebody dies, you don't touch. But in other places, like the family will wash them. Like that used to be the thing. Like you had the viewing parlor in your house because you would put the dead body there. And so now we have become removed from death. And it makes it a lot scarier. But when death was something normal that just happened, it was a lot easier to handle. And like we talked about the sky burials, which are very gruesome. So sky burials are a Tibetan ritual where people will be,
I've seen that.
I don't know. That's a dangerous Google.
Why? What will happen?
Dead bodies and lots of pieces and parts. Okay.
If YouTube pulls us down, we'll edit those pictures back out, I guess.
Yeah. So a sky burial. The corpse is placed on a mountain, and scavenging animals will come and take it.
Okay.
So those are people.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where is this?
Tibet.
Tibet. Okay.
So really fascinating stuff, but hard to talk about. And you talk about like it's giving back to the earth, and so it's the completion of the cycle in their religion.
Okay.
And we talked about like mummies, always a good topic. The Inca child sacrifices, where they would actually there was just a couple weeks ago a really cool article where they found 140 sacrificed children at a site.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, Chan Chan. Really cool. They're still getting more information out on that one, but just how we deal with death and how death was, or how sacrifice was an appeal to the gods, and how how people try to change fate. And it was a really, really fun class. I think I got to talk about bog bodies.
Tell us more.
Bog bodies are so cool. They are bodies that are left in bogs, normally in Ireland.
Go down here and just click right there.
This one?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just click and computer only.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So, bog bodies. They are very, very well preserved bodies in Ireland.
Wow.
Like this guy, you can still see his red hair. This guy still got his hat on. One of them, I think this guy still has his hairstyle intact.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so this guy's only half a body. Some of them were hugging. This guy still, you can see his hairstyle.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is in Ireland.
Yeah, and he looks like he's just sleeping. But the bogs they're anoxic, so there's no oxygen in there to tear down the decomposition, or to aid in decomposition.
Okay.
I guess also in Scotland. There are no bog bodies in Florida. I don't know why that's there.
Maybe there are bodies found in the bog.
But they would use this to preserve things. So we're not sure. Like this guy was hung. So they were clearly they were killed. These people all met violent ends. They were all died because of at someone else's hand. But they were left in the bogs.
That's interesting.
There's bog butter. So they would actually, before refrigerators, they'd put butter into leather bags and drop them in the bogs, and it would keep it preserved. And you can still eat the butter that comes out of the bogs today.
Really?
I wouldn't, but
no, I mean, right? Yeah, but it's nothing harmful about it. No bacteria.
Yeah.
It doesn't spoil.
Right.
So it hasn't gone rancid in this many years.
It's really crazy.
That's because there's no oxygen to make it go rancid.
Yep. This might be a dangerous one. You never know with the risky Googles.
That's true. You
but
don't.
This is that's bog butter.
So it's just a leather bag with the butter inside.
Yep.
Wow, look at that.
That's somebody made it. I think,
I was going to say, that
that's-
looks really fresh.
Yeah, this is actually one that came out.
That's cool.
Right?
Well, I knew about the bodies. I didn't know about the butter. That's interesting.
Neat stuff.
So these people would be put into the bog where they were obviously killed.
It's unclear why they were put in the box.
So we don't know if there are criminals that people killed or there's
right.
enemies or whatever.
Right. Yeah, unclear at the moment.
How old are they? Like what time
Medieval,
frame?
like Celtic.
So not that long. I mean, long ago, but not that long ago.
I mean, they're not ancient. They're human, like they're fully human.
Right. They're modern humans.
Right, and like they had culture and everything, obviously. So, yeah, Celtic-ish.
Where are these bogs at in Ireland?
Let's find out. Let's find it. Everywhere.
So mostly in the north.
Mm-hmm.
Where would Dublin be on that map?
Oh gosh. Here, this one's got the Dublin is here.
Okay.
And the bogs are. Oh, that's Sinead O'Connor. What? Let's go here. The bog. There's some bogs nearby.
Yeah, there's bogs near
Yeah.
Dublin. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess you'd have to know the history of Ireland to really understand it.
Yeah, and the history of Ireland is very complicated.
Yes, it is. It's still complicated.
Yes. Yes. But
wow, that's incredible.
fascinating stuff for sure.
Well, it's like that body they found in Italy, the guy up on the mountain.
Oh, Utsi.
Utsi, yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting.
He is actually under hot debate because they don't know what nationality he would have been because he was crossing the Alps.
Right,
and
right.
so they don't
absolutely.
know who he belongs to.
Right.
And it appears, the new stuff comes out about Utsi all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They found the contents of his stomach. They were all still preserved.
Wow.
They found his shoes, which were woven, and he had tattoos. He seems to have been stabbed, but they're not sure if that killed him or not. But neat stuff.
That's incredible that they can figure that out.
I know, it's so neat.
Just incredible.
So neat.
I was actually in not Ireland, Italy, and I saw him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was behind thick glass, and one person at a time could peer through this little porthole and see him, and there he was, all dead.
I would love to see, because he's like,
yeah, he's all a little bit twisted. It is interesting. But I think the bog bodies are more fascinating because they're just so well preserved.
oh yeah.
It's incredible. And also and this is going to lead us into volcanoes now. I was in Italy, and we went to Pompeii, outside of Vesuvius, and we saw the what are they called?
The casts?
The casts. Thank you.
I think they're endocasts because they're like the voids left from the
the
bodies.
voids are left from the bodies. So
Did you see the dog?
No, I didn't see the dog. Why don't you pull that up for people who don't know what we're talking about?
The dog is the saddest one. So, Pompeii bodies.
It's fascinating to see it. And Pompeii is so well preserved. The paint is still on the walls.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So here's some of the bodies. You can see, like, they most likely died from asphyxiation. But there's the dog. Womp womp. You can see his collar.
Yeah.
So, like, you have these people where they fell.
Yeah.
And then...
They're covered in volcanic ash,
Yep.
right?
Yep, completely covered in volcanic ash.
So these are plaster casts, I believe, right?
So what they did is they found the voids, the archaeologists did. They found the voids and they would fill them with the plaster. Poor babies. I'm sorry, I always feel worse for the dogs. But absolutely,
Wow.
huge loss of life there. They call that a Plinian eruption because Pliny the Elder wrote about it.
Oh,
he was watching it from the from across the inlet, and so he wrote a first-hand account of it.
Wow.
Yeah, so the Plinian eruption is the big ash up the wazoo going everywhere. You have actual lava and huge ash clouds at the same time. So,
wow, and stones too, right?
Yeah, they
Rocks
had a lot of, they're called pyroclastic material.
Right, right.
So pyro meaning fire and clast meaning rock. So fire rock, just
Wow.
being hucked out of the volcanoes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I also went to Mount St. Helens after, 20 years after the eruption, and it's still destroyed there.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
although it's growing.
It's growing, yeah. It's fascinating how fast it's growing, but
Yeah.
by the mountain itself, it's still just a wasteland.
Yeah, but
incredible.
the mountain's growing.
Oh, the mountain's getting
The
bigger,
lava dome's growing back
it's growing
up.
back.
Yeah, so Mount St. Helens lava dome is building back up.
Yeah,
so
pull that up. Let's just show people
yeah.
that. That's incredible, too. It's exciting to see that. When I was there, they had steam and stuff was coming out of the mountain. I was like, wow, this is scary. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. So yeah, there it is from while back, and yeah, the dome is getting bigger and bigger.
So over time, this will basically rebuild the mountain face.
Oh, it'll erupt again. That probably means that we've got some action. So Mount St. Helens is a lateral eruption. So it didn't go out the top. You can see here there's a scar out the side.
Right.
So she blew her flank, and we knew it was going to happen. Volcanologists and geologists, volcanologists, the most hardcore sounding of all of them.
It does sound good,
yeah,
right? Volcanologist.
So
damn right.
Vulcan, the god of volcanoes, and with the Vulcans of live long and prosper. They sit in all sorts of equipment up there. They put in seismic stations to monitor for seismic activity. So they put in seismographs because one of the key factors that will happen before an eruption will be increased earthquakes. They also put in these things that will measure the tilt. So we had these tilt readers, and this side of the flank was tilting more than any other side. So they knew that there was going to be an eruption coming out the side.
So they knew that the ground was pushing out.
Yeah.
Before it erupted.
Yep. And they also monitor the gases that come out because degassing of a volcano is very important prior to eruption. A lot of them they're very stinky. They spew sulfur.
Right.
So, so they measure all three of those things to try to figure out when the eruption is coming. And I believe only 2 people died during the eruption. 1 person refused to evacuate, and a geologist got caught.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. For anyone who has a chance to go out there to see Mount St. Helens, just that area of Washington by itself is beautiful.
Right.
But Mount St. Helens is an experience that you just don't get to have. It's just amazing how beautiful it is and how that area is. Like the area right beside the volcano is still destroyed. Well, when I was there maybe 7 or 8 years ago, it's still destroyed.
Right.
It looks just like a lunar landscape of this waste.
Yeah.
But then on the further out you get, it's actually starting to grow back. Like the trees are getting huge.
Yeah, and that was what, 1984?
Yeah, something like that. It was in the early 80s.
It was before me, so.
I was alive when it happened, but I was a little boy in Eastern Canada.
So,
so I'm like, hey, volcano, great.
So if I click here, will I find the Hawaii?
Click where?
On the Firefox. Is it down there?
Oh, you can still use it. Just use this.
Oh, there. Is this it?
Yep.
Okay, so Hawaii.
So Hawaii, big, for those of you who don't know, big eruption.
Going crazy. So, fun fact, it's Hawaii is on a hot spot. So Hawaii is moving. The island that Hawaii that is active now will not always be active. So if we look at a map of Hawaiian islands, you can see the movement of the hotspot. So a hotspot is when the mantle underneath the crust is warmer in one area.
Okay.
We're still working on why and how a mantle plume actually looks, but it's just a warm spot in the mantle. So the mantle can become magma. And so while it's inside the crust, it's magma. Once it's erupted, it's lava.
I want to pull up the mantle stuff. So please, I'm not.
No.
I'm familiar with it, but I'm not completely familiar with it.
Earth's layers. Let's do that. So we're composed in the upper layer, there's the inner core and outer core. The inner core is solid iron. Or nickel, iron and nickel. The outer core is liquid iron and nickel. So that movement of the solid or the liquid outer core around the solid inner core is what makes our magnetic field.
Okay.
So this, it is very important that this is round. If it wasn't round, it wouldn't work.
Okay.
All of these things that help our everyday lives work is because we're round.
Okay.
We're actually not perfectly round. Do you know this?
Oh, yeah.
We're an oblate spheroid.
Right, yeah.
We're a little fatter in the middle, just like me. So, then we have the inner mantle and the upper mantle. The upper mantle is largely where we interact, because on top of the upper mantle is the crust. The crust is split into the asthenosphere and the lithosphere. The lithosphere is where we are.
Okay.
So, portion of this gets superheated from the heat in the core, and when that becomes hot, we can get magma.
Okay.
And magma is more buoyant than mantle. It's like a lava lamp. Think about a lava lamp. When you heat up the gunk inside the lava lamp, it bubbles up. And then it cools and falls down. It's all convection. My students will tell you I'm super big into convection. So it's all about this heat rising and cold falling. So the magma rises to the surface, and sometimes it will break through the crust, and you will start a submarine volcano. Now, if your continental crust is not moving, that volcano can grow and grow and grow until it breaches the surface and will become a new island. Now, Hawaii is on a hotspot, and it has been for a long time. So, over here on the top left...
click on here, let's just make sure it's coming up. Okay, good.
Yeah, good. So over here on the top left is the island of Kauai. That is the oldest Hawaiian island that is still above water.
Okay.
It is several million years old. I think only about like 3 to 6, somewhere in there. Oahu is the second oldest. Then Molokai. Then Lanai. Then Maui. And this is the active one.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 5...
So the active one is on the Big Island.
Yeah, that's the big island. That
Okay.
is Hawaii. So there are 5 volcanoes on Hawaii. There is, over here, there's Mauna Loa, Mauna Kea, Hualalai, a little one over here that I always forget the name, and then the one that's active right now, Kilauea. Kilauea is the only one that's still over the hotspot. The rest of them have moved off.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at it, can I get to a big map here? If you look at it and you zoom out, you can actually see a chain. Let's get this in satellite view. See that chain there?
So yeah, make sure we're seeing it on our video.
Yeah. So this chain
Okay.
that goes up here, these volcanoes, or sorry, this light line going across here, those are old islands that used to be where Hawaii is. The hot spot doesn't move, but the oceanic plate does.
Okay.
So the Pacific plate has been moving this way and up here. So the oldest of the islands that's still up here, this is the Emperor Seamount. Up here is a little island, or now it's a submarine mount called Detroit.
Detroit, eh?
And it's about to be subducted underneath the North American plate here in the Aleutian Trench. But Hawaii will not always be above. Here, let's zoom in. Oh, that's better. That's better. There we go. So this is the track of the Pacific plate. And then it takes a turn and it goes north. And this north march is going to be subducted here in this dark zone that's called a trench. So this plate, the Pacific plate, is going to be recycled back into the mantle.
Oh, okay. So it's being pushed down.
Yeah. And that's why these islands are being pushed up, the Aleutian Islands. So, but yeah, Hawaii, the only active volcano is, let's see, scroll in, is this guy. Now this
Where it says volcano.
Yeah. Over here, one of these little islands is going to eventually be the newest island of Hawaii.
Okay.
Oh, why am I blanking on the name? Futurama said the name of it. Oh, it starts with an L, but there's a new one. They've already named it there. It should be like above water soon.
Really?
So.
Like soon, like 100 years or tomorrow?
A couple thousand.
Wow.
Geologically soon.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know that.
Yeah, really great. So this island, what we've got going out here is on the Kilauea side. So it's on the west or eastern side of the island. It's the only one that's still really, like there is active volcanism in the other volcanoes, but it's the one that's being fed most by the earthquake. Or sorry, by the hotspot. Here we go. Let's go. Let's check this out. So Kilauea has been doing something that's pretty unique for Hawaiian volcanoes. It's been having fissure eruptions. So the only type of rock that's erupted on Hawaii is basalt.
Okay.
And that is pretty much, it's the most common rock on Earth. All oceanic crust is basalt. So basalt is what we call a low viscosity or low resistance to flow. So it's kind of an oozy volcano. It's not going to throw out bombs like the big hunks of rock. It's not going to have like violent eruptions. They're usually what we call quiescent or Hawaiian type. Like we named it after them. It has 2 main types of flow that you'll hear about are a'a and pohoihoi.
Okay.
A'a is what you see here in the background, this big wall of blocks. Now, you can walk away from that. It's not rushing at you. You can lazily saunter away and be fine. But these fissure eruptions, this is something that you don't see super often in Hawaii. Usually you have it coming out of the big crater, everything's great, you know where it's going to be flowing. Or you have like some areas where you know the flows will happen. Now the earth is cracking open and you have eruptions coming up from ground that was previously houses or roads or stuff. So, yeah, let's see. Hawaii.
Well, that's what we're used to seeing, the kind of the lava just
flowing
covering
over the surface.
Right, that's what people think of. Well, I think of when I think of Hawaiian eruptions.
Right.
That or the lava pouring into the ocean.
But this is what's been happening, is these fissure eruptions.
So that just kind of happened.
The earth will start to crack from these earthquakes that they're having, and then lava will start pouring
Kind of
out.
like you see in the movies.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Right? And so that's what's really freaking people out, which understandably,
So
this is an old one.
I was
This
going to
is
say,
from
that's happening now?
2011.
Holy smokes.
This one is more recent. But yeah, they're having these huge fissures. They're breaking open. Salute.
Excuse me.
They're breaking open the ground. There was a really great video of it too. If you just Google these things, you'll find amazing videos on it. But yeah, they're spewing toxic gas because sulfur isn't good for humans to breathe. So really dangerous stuff that they hadn't quite expected. They knew it was going to blow,
Right.
but they didn't expect all these fissures to crack open.
Right. So literally the ground is separated and hot rock is, melted rock is surfacing.
Yep. Right? No big deal. Yeah, pretty terrifying.
That's incredible.
Right. So, but it is again, if you're going to have those sorts of things happen, have it happen when the lava is moving slow.
Right, sure.
So you can see the crack open and you can get away.
Right,
it's not going to swallow you up unless you are ignoring all the warning signs. But it is very dangerous because, yeah, houses are being burned, roads are being destroyed. Hawaii's used to their roads having lava go over them. And then once it hardens, you can chip it away.
Right.
But now it's going through the roads, like cracking open the roads and everything else.
So were these roads that people were currently using? Or
Oh, yeah, nice
they
paved roads.
much...
The parks, the national parks are closed now. Like this was a place that people had been visiting actively. Using all these roads, living there, going and visiting the parks, looking at the volcanoes. One of the walls collapsed on the volcano earlier this year. I showed my class. I like to do links in science of what's going on. And yeah, one of the walls on the crater collapsed in and like let out a big puff of ash, and it was really neat. But didn't expect this to come of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely bonkers.
So basically what you're saying is the Earth has got this core, this melted iron and nickel, and then it has the outer layer. Yeah, could you have that still?
Yeah,
so,
here, this guy's really nice. Look at that.
So the core is melted iron and nickel.
The core is solid.
The core is solid.
It's under so much pressure that it's actually solid.
Okay.
So we know this from seismic data. When earthquakes happen, the S wave, the secondary wave, can't go through liquid. Okay. So once it moves through the mantle, it actually reflects off of the outer core because it's liquid. And so we also, the primary wave, the P wave, can go through all of these. But as it reaches different phase, like semi-solid, solid, liquid, it changes speed. And it changes speed at a known rate. So we know that the core, due to these movements of these primary and secondary waves, we know that the inner core is solid, the outer core is liquid.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's heating up because we're undergoing nuclear fusion in the core. And like we're heating, we're hot.
Right.
We're cooling, but we're hot. So that heat will heat up the mantle, which is roughly a peridotite composition. So it's got a lot of iron, a lot of magnesium. For those of you out there who like birthstones, it's August's birthstone, peridot. So that's it's a green rock when you get it at the surface. But it's iron and magnesium rich. The mantle is quote unquote solid. It's kind of solid like Play-Doh is. It can move, it's malleable, but it is solid. And so it can flow a little bit. And so we get a hot spot where we have more flow happening, and that becomes more buoyant, and it tries to rise to the surface. And eventually you either get it to erupt at an area where you have a volcano or an area where you have two plates that are separating, and you can have a spreading center. So like the middle of the Atlantic, we're forming new crust.
Incredible. So is there ever a time when the molten core will make its way to the surface?
No, it'll cool.
It always cools beforehand?
The nickel never makes it out of the core portion. Never makes it through the mantle. So, and it all has to do with how we were spinning at the origin of the solar system.
Right.
So we were at first a hot, mushy mess. It was in the Hadean period when we were Hades. It was hellish. So there was no water, there was no land. We were all mostly molten. And as we were spinning around on our rotation and in our orbit, it basically, all of the heavy stuff went to the middle. And so nickel and iron are very, very heavy compared to the rest of the elements that are found naturally on Earth in any sort of quantity. So they all went to the middle. And we got progressively lighter as we went to the outside of it. So it works kind of like spinning a basketball on your finger. The center of gravity is in the center of the ball.
Right.
So that's where your spin comes from. And that's where our spin comes from, is the center of that. So.
Wow, isn't that neat?
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's like, that's how we know we're round.
Right.
Is the things that work like our tides, our days, the wind.
Oh, yeah.
Wind works because we spin.
Right.
The Coriolis effect works, which is the spinning clockwise in the northern hemisphere and counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere, works because we spin.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's incredible.
Right. It's so neat, and it's stuff that you don't get to hear about, but it's really, the thing I love about geology is it doesn't have to be hard.
Right, right.
It is.
Well, I mean, rocks are usually hard.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't resist that
I
one.
love it. Love a good rock joke. But like, it's stuff that we take for granted
Oh, another one.
in
Another
our
pun.
in our everyday lives, like the tides, the wind,
Mm-hmm.
day and night. It's
Right.
all due to the geology and like the spinning and the earth
Right.
and the structure. So
Since we're talking about pre-Earth milieu, where'd the moon come from?
oh, that's a fun one. My students will tell you this. It's an exam question.
Oh, cool.
So the Earth was hit by another piece of space debris, like a protoplanet, so smaller than us, and it impacted us. It actually sideswiped Earth.
Mhm.
And so I can show you a picture. Oh, that's too many. Too many O's. So yeah, we got smacked. We got
Cool.
sideswiped. So a protoplanet impacted us while we were still hot and mushy. We were still in the early period of Earth. No life, no land, no earth, water, no, just still mushy. So we got impacted, and part of the protoplanet became part of Earth. We can't really go out there and be like, this is it, but part of it got incorporated into what we know now, and then part of it became this debris field. And it got stuck in our orbit, and it coalesced. So these pieces of debris hit each other and stuck together until they formed the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And so our moon is actually too big for our planet. So it's actually, we're losing it. It's leaving.
Cool.
Bye, moon. So I get annoyed because they talk about the supermoon all the time.
Mhm.
But then I also remember that someday there won't be a supermoon.
Right.
In like hundreds of thousands of years. The moon will be too far away. We'll lose it. It'll leave our orbit eventually.
Will it go and hit another planet?
Who knows?
That'd be kind of neat.
Right? Go hang out with Mars. But we are one of the few planets that actually was impacted by our moon. We have one of the largest, like the size ratio for our planet to the moon is very different from everyone else. Like Jupiter and Saturn have a ton of moons because it's little stuff that got caught in their orbit.
Mm-hmm.
But we're one of the few that got impacted.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do we know that, though?
The rocks on the moon. We didn't know until 1969 when Neil Armstrong got there. They brought back rocks for us, and they're basalt. Most common rock on Earth.
So it has to come from Earth, or could it have come from somewhere else?
They actually have some matching geochemical data that suggests that it was an impact. So
they have exactly the same chemical composition of this and this are exactly the same.
Some of these rocks, match up. And so the moon doesn't have an atmosphere and it doesn't have plate tectonics. So where did the basalt come from?
Right.
So, fun fact.
So you have to have oxygen to have basalt?
No.
Okay.
Nope. But it doesn't weather out there. So their basalt's fresh. It's not undergoing any sort of oxidation or anything that our basalt undergoes.
Okay.
If you were to have a high-powered telescope, Neil Armstrong's footprint looks exactly the same. It hasn't been blown away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, in other fun planetary news, NASA is sending up another probe to Mars, or they're sending up another. You can consider it's not a rover because it's not going to move, but they're sending some more machinery to Mars.
Oh, cool.
In the next week or so.
Wow.
Coming right up, it's going out of California, but they're sending it up with a seismic station,
Okay.
and they're going to basically plant it. They're going to plunk it down, and it's going to sit there and wait for earthquakes. Because Mars has the largest volcano that we know of in the solar system.
Interesting.
Olympus Mons. It is a giant basalt spewing volcano that hasn't, they don't have plate tectonics anymore. So they're going to see what's going on, if they have any active magnetism going on Mars.
Interesting.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
So
can't wait to find out.
Since now we're gone interplanetary now,
Yeah.
we're going to start talking about some really far out stuff now, because I just like far out stuff.
Beyond the asteroid belt or beyond the Kuiper belt?
Let's just go out.
It's a far out joke.
I know, right? You got me. Just joking. Mars at one time, I think, had water.
Yes. So actually, some of the evidence for that has been retracted.
Okay.
Some of the evidence looks like it was probably windblown.
Oh, okay.
But Mars has conglomerates, and conglomerate is a rock that rock that forms in flowing water.
Okay.
And so they've identified conglomerate there. So at one point in time, they may have had flowing water of some sort. Now, water in space means something different than water here. So it could have been a non-H2O liquid.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily, because in some places you can have methane water.
Right.
or methane, like because there are ice caps on Mars, but they're not freshwater. I don't think.
Okay, so there's water in it, maybe, or
it seems like there might have been at one point. But.
so it could be like frozen methane with water trapped in it, like methyl hydrate.
Right.
Right.
And like Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter, I think. They think it has a briny sea underneath its icy outer shell.
Right.
And a briny sea is a good home for life.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's one of the places they really want to get to. So there's a really great nerd band called the Amoeba People, and they do a song about the Cassini probe. That they sent over to Jupiter, and then they found Europa, and they found that it had water underneath. They think so. They sent it, or Cassini Go is what the name of the song is, and basically it talks about how we sent the probe too close to somewhere that could have been livable, could have had life. So they sent it on a suicide descent, so that it wouldn't interact or interfere with potential life in a different planet.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's a really fun video. Like they're great. They're it's on YouTube. They have a lot of really fun science videos.
So, Europa has a briny sea. Mars at one time may have had water and an atmosphere of some kind. They were finding planets in what's called the Goldilocks zone or in other solar systems. So.
I'm going to do my best X-Files and say I want to believe.
I want to believe, exactly. They say the X-Files, what a great show.
Right? I mean, it's silly to think that there isn't something out there, whether or not it's intelligent life or if it's like in microbial form. We'll find out.
Right. I often wonder, especially if you're finding planets that are in the zones, like, because one time on Earth we thought you couldn't have life at the bottom of the ocean, but we do.
It's there.
There's lots of life.
Because there's lots of organisms that live off of sulfur instead. There's sulfite-based organisms, so.
Yeah, and there's creatures that evolve in caves in complete darkness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I think.
What is it? Is it Jurassic Park? Life finds a way.
Life finds a way, right? I mean, it's incredible that there's all this planets and stuff out there that there's got to be something. You know, whether it's life that we can identify is a whole other question.
Right.
You know, because our life is our life, and this is what we call life. But maybe this is also life. We just don't know. Yeah. Kind of cool, right?
Yeah, I love it.
So, all right, let's wrap this up with one more thing because I really want to talk about this.
Okay.
Minerals that'll kill you without being beat over the head with them.
Yes.
So let's type. Let me borrow the keyboard there. I know the site I want to go to.
Go for it.
Hopefully I won't get taken down by YouTube. Click on the website here.
There we go.
Minerals that will flat out kill you.
There we go.
I love this stuff.
Oh, man.
I love things that'll just flat out kill me.
Right? Me too. And there's actually, like, the best part is there's some, let's make sure we're good over here. Can I move it?
So for those of you who may not be familiar with Listverse, it's a great little website.
Yeah.
They have all kinds of this, top 10 of this, top 10 of that. It's really a fun website to go to.
I like this one because it's a recently discovered one, Coloradite. I've never seen it, actually. So it has, what did it say in there? It has a telluride and another toxic rare mineral. So this guy is pretty rare still since we just discovered it. It's not super abundant. So probably something you'll never really come across in your daily life. But chalconthite is a lot, like you'll see this in a lot of museums.
Okay, that's beautiful. It's
right?
Beautiful
It's absolutely
color.
Gorgeous. Generally, blue is toxic.
In general, blue will kill you.
Yep. We actually, just within the last 5 years, developed a non-toxic way of making blue.
Really?
Blue is a very dangerous color.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
and we're in blue.
I know, right? It's one of those it's one of like the basic elemental structure, like the basic elements that make up blue tend to be toxic. Like they make it non-toxic, obviously, in your clothes and stuff, but it's all synthetic. So figuring out how to make blue was was a big chemical feat in the last few years.
What is it that makes, what's the mineral that?
So chalconthite here is copper.
Okay.
And so copper will be toxic in excess quantities, it says. So basically, if you ingest that, you get copper poisoning.
Wow.
And it shuts down your body.
Yikes.
Boom. Done. So copper overdose, I think, don't eat pennies. And then Hutchinsonite is another.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
So what's the mineral? Is it the silver or the orange?
I believe it's the silver.
Wow.
Because it says it's lead.
Okay.
So, Minerals are greasy. Some minerals are greasy. It's one of their properties, and so they feel a little bit like a greasy sandwich or something. So they have a different feel to them. But hutchinsonite has thallium, lead, and arsenic in it. So basically, lead and arsenic already a 1-2 punch that's going to kill you.
Right.
So yeah, really dangerous one there.
That's beautiful though, man. It's unbelievable how beautiful
so
it
a
is.
lot of these things are ore deposits because a lot of them have heavy metals we like to use in economic stuff. Like lead is a big mineral. We use it a lot. I mean, we used to use it everywhere.
Right.
So looks like it's in Europe, so we're all safe from that now. Galena. Galena is not, don't lick it and you'll be fine.
Don't lick it?
We have it upstairs. It's one that we use a lot. It's safe to touch. It's safe to identify. It's safe to do all the tests with. You don't ingest it because it is lead sulfide. So its mineral chemical formula is PBS.
So when you're looking at this deposit, is it the silver?
Yep.
So
it forms in cubes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it looks kind of like something out of the Transformers movie a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. It's absolutely incredible that it forms that nice cube.
It also has the highest specific gravity of any mineral on Earth.
Is that right?
It is very heavy because it is lead sulfur, so it is primarily lead.
Right.
So it's very heavy for its size, very dense.
What do you think the blue stuff is?
I believe it's fluorite based on its shape and its color, and then there should be some calcite in the back there.
Isn't that incredible?
So, yeah. But lead's pretty gross. You don't want to ever get near it. And then the sulfur, definitely not a good one. So one of the big tests that we do in our lab is to see if things fizz. So we put hydrochloric acid on things. You never put hydrochloric acid on anything with sulfur because you'll make it stink.
You get hydrogen sulfide and you might not live.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Nasty. This guy, the big baddie, everybody knows about asbestos.
Sure.
The mesothelioma commercials will tell you about that. Basically, this is a fibrous mineral, and the fibers, when you breathe it in, so your lungs are filled with bronchioles, and that gets in there and cuts them up.
Isn't that amazing?
Yep.
That because you don't normally think about anything that's not organic being fibrous.
Yep. Right.
It's
right.
kind of amazing.
There are not very many fibrous minerals.
Okay. So So arsenic, or not arsenic, asbestos.
Asbestos. There's a few other ones that you can get. Like rutile can sometimes be a little fibrous, but this is the best known fibrous mineral.
So could you literally just take like a fork or something and pick them off? Like you can just separate
brittle
them.
fibers. It kind of feels like fishing line.
Really?
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then after a while, if they've been exposed to air too long, they start to become fluffy. So they look like white fibers after a while. But they tend to start out with this really pretty green sheen to them.
Really?
They're beautiful, but they'll kill you.
So they oxidize in air, basically. Interesting.
And there's two families of asbestos. There's the amphibole family, and then there's this family. The asbestos here is like these are the worst of the worst. The ones that are in the amphibole family are not as bad for you. Like they won't kill you as readily.
They'll kill you slower.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that one gets in you and it stays in your lungs. Another thing you don't want to breathe in is quartz dust, so silica dust.
Okay.
It gives you white lung instead of black lung.
Right.
So it's also dangerous.
In chemistry, we use silica gel a lot, which is this SiO2 powder.
Nice.
And
you don't want to breathe that.
No, it's very, very bad for you.
And one of the things that was troubling that I noticed, I used to get Ipsy, which is a beauty subscription box, and they sent me a literal tub of silica powder.
Really?
It mattifies your face.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I guess I'll just hold my breath. No, I didn't use it. I was like, this is not because arsenic and mercury used to be in a lot of beauty products. So they used to be very
mercury used to be in a lot of medicines too.
Yeah. Arsenopyrite has arsenic in it and pyrite, so that's going to be sulfur again. So another bad one.
I find this is very beautiful because the way it just makes nice pyrite
will grow into cubes. So the pyrite portion of it's making it grow cubic. So minerals you can either grow in an irregular pattern or you get a geometric shape, depending on your crystal and structure.
It's crazy beautiful.
We have some of this upstairs in my poisons cabinet I can show you.
We'll have to go look.
So yeah, it's really very pretty in this quality. Normally it's just kind of dumpy looking. You won't notice it too well, but arsenic and iron and sulfur.
Incredible, beautiful.
Definitely very, very lethal. Carcinogenic vapors. So tobernite is a very rare one. The mineral from hell, it says.
We're looking at the green.
The green.
Right.
Uranium. So it's in granite deposits and pegmatites. So granite can have some very heavy metals in it. It's usually associated with hydrothermal vents. So you have hot water with lots and lots of chemicals in it, and you can get this stuff left behind.
Incredible.
It's got copper, phosphorus, and uranium. And uranium is definitely, it looks radioactive. It's nothing you really want to touch.
I think that's beautiful. I think a nice pair of earrings with that would look really nice.
Right? I mean, if you want to go the way of Marie Curie.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But it's pretty bad. It's pretty rough stuff.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Stibnite
Whoa.
is actually something that I
Handled?
didn't realize that when I read this list when you sent it to me, I was like, oops.
So we're looking at the
silver.
The silvery stuff that's jutting out of the white.
The white's probably calcite based on its crystal shape, but antimony.
Oh, antimony, yeah.
Yep, antimony is a good poison.
For those of you listening to the podcast that may not know, antimony is one of the metals that I've worked with in my life that actually had a warning label of a dead fish and a dead tree was printed on the bottle, and I didn't know what that meant. I had to look it up.
What does that mean?
It means severe environmental hazard. So basically, don't dump this down the drain.
Right.
Because it'll kill everything.
Yikes.
Antimony is extremely toxic.
Yes. And so this is an antimony mineral.
It's beautiful. That's a beautiful color.
Right. So apparently Japan has the best in the world. But I had never heard of orpiment.
Okay.
So this is a pretty rare one. We're looking at the bright yellow and red, I think.
Okay.
Arsenic again. Arsenic and sulfur, which means the sulfur is always yellow in minerals. So that's why we always get a little yellow sheen, or except for in galena. But yeah, so it's the yellow stuff up here, but definitely not something you want to touch, because arsenic is, as you guys know, a very, very basic poison that can kill people it's rough. It's a rough death. But
every mystery novel in the world uses it. That and thallium.
I did like this side note here. The Chinese had extensive use of this mineral. They would rub it on the ends of their arrows.
Oh.
And shoot people with it and poison the arrows.
Just to make sure he's dead.
Yeah.
Good job, man. That's awesome.
Right? It's double tap, right? And then cinnabar. It's one of those where, you look back in history and you're like, oh my gosh, why did we use these things? So this was very common. You'll see these, the Chinese lacquered boxes or enameled boxes. Mm-hmm. They're all bright red. And just like you can see here on the screen for list verse, that's cinnabar. Mm-hmm. And they carved it. Yes. Cinnabar is mercury and sulfur.
Right. Isn't that beautiful though?
Looks great, but it
looks beautiful.
Incredibly toxic.
So it must be very soft though, if you can carve it.
Yes, it has a hardness of 4. You can carve it with a penny.
Really?
Yep.
So just with copper tools, you could go ahead and carve something beautiful. Because whoever did this took their time.
Yep, you could probably do this with like a sharpened, like a nice hardened stick. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's very soft. If you get large enough quantities of very pure cinnabar like this, it'll actually sweat liquid mercury.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's cool. Do you have any cinnabar upstairs?
Yes, sir.
We're going to have a good old time here in a minute.
Make it sweat.
So
yeah, that is very, very, very toxic.
You just heat it?
For making it sweat?
Yeah.
Oh no, you just leave it out.
You just let it sit there and it'll eventually just give up mercury.
Yep.
So the air is reacting with the oxygen and it's exchanging mercury for oxygen. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yep.
So you make sulfur dioxide and mercury metal.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's cool.
Absolutely crazy.
That's really cool.
But yeah, they use these a lot, and you would keep things in those boxes.
Right. And they get covered in mercury.
And then you get mercury poisoning. So mercury poisoning makes you go crazy. Do you know the phrase mad as a hatter?
Yeah, absolutely.
So mad hatters would handle liquid mercury to treat beaver skin for their caps.
Yeah.
And so they would get the mercury in their bloodstream and go crazy. So
wow.
Right?
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Chemistry lesson in there somewhere.
And then this guy, Mercury, there was an emperor in China, like the first Chinese emperor. Have you heard of the terracotta soldiers?
Oh, sure.
So supposedly somewhere near there is his tomb. But they won't go in, the archaeologists aren't allowed to go in it because it's a sacred site, so they think they know which hill is his. Supposedly in there, he has a scale model of the known world.
Oh, cool.
And the rivers and lakes are made of mercury. The sky in that, so the entire room is supposed to be a diorama with like lakes of mercury and buildings and like all sorts of stuff. And the sky is inlaid supposedly with precious gems making up the constellations.
Wow.
Right?
They got to go in there now.
I know.
They got to go in now.
They can't yet.
Not yet. Wow, that's incredible.
Oh,
that is incredible.
Yeah.
So, Tawny, it was our first podcast.
I think we might have ran a little long. Hopefully we didn't bore anybody.
I think we're perfect. No, I think we're going to have a good show. I think people are going to be interested in this, and I think we should leave the final word to you.
Okay. Well, I guess rocks are always interesting. I know everybody, at least at some point in their life, picks up a rock and goes, "That's really neat." And if anybody out there is interested in it, I encourage you to come take earth science or geology with me, or whoever's teaching it. It's always a fun class. It's nice to get to know a little bit more about the world around you, because you can apply these things in your everyday life. When you go to the beach, when you go to the parks, wherever you go, you're always interacting with the earth. You're always interacting with geology. So I think I have a good time teaching it, and I really enjoy getting to tell people about geology whenever I can. So
awesome.
But thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you. Thank you for being my first guest.
Yeah, hopefully.
And hopefully we'll have you back again. We'll talk about the caves where they grow the big crystals.
Ooh, in Mexico.
Yeah, the crystal caves. But we'll leave that for another day.
Oh, definitely. Anytime you want to talk geology, just let me know.
All right. Thank you, Tawny.
Thank you.